All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I apologize. Our shows are supposed to be at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. It's now 11:22. Hey, but at least we got double numbers, right? So I apologize for that, and we have some major tech issues. So we're doing what we can to get good audio and good video, but unfortunately today's video is going to be a little bit choppy. So I want to let you guys know that this is going to be episode 620. So if you want to grab the show notes and any of the links to the sponsors, any of that good stuff, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/620. I'm just still laughing inside because we had a cancellation for today's show, and I really wanted to get Aaron and Geneva on from AmpCoil because I've been hearing some great things about their product, and I wanted to really talk with them and introduce them. But we have been coming up on some major tech issues, so I do apologize for that. Let's see, is there anything else to get to? Let me bring up our show page here. We've got a lot of really cool shows coming up on Extreme Health Radio, and like I said, we do broadcast Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. We're a little bit late today, as you guys probably already know, but we've got a great lineup of shows and guests coming up. On Friday, we're going to be talking with Allison Hush, and we'll be talking with her about essential oils and a brain tumor. She was featured in The Truth About Cancer with our friend Ty Bollinger, and she used essential oils to help heal her brain tumor. So if you know anybody with brain cancer, anything like that, you might want to have them listen to this show on Friday. The next Monday, we have sort of a double header, which is going to be kind of fun. We have Dr. Jennifer Daniels, and we'll be talking with her about turpentine, candida. She has some very unique protocols, and she's been sort of banished to South America. Maybe she banished herself, but she's a traditional medical doctor, so this will be fun. We've had her on the show a couple times, and then we'll have Dr. Donnie on later on Monday talking about healing leaky gut. So we've got a lot of really cool shows coming up, and I just want to let you guys know about that. So if you haven't subscribed to our show or anything like that, make sure to subscribe so that you can get access to all of these cool shows coming up. But today is really cool because we have Aaron and Geneva Bigelow on, and we are going to be talking about the AmpCoil, which is a really interesting and sort of unique product on the market. And I feel like it's my duty to share with you guys things that are going to help make tremendous changes in your health. And this is an interesting device because it sort of couples a bunch of different technologies all into one. And so it's using pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, biofeedback, and I believe even some sort of sound frequencies, sort of Rife technology, all in one device. So let me bring them up. And they have a really unique story about their own story with Lyme disease as well. So let me turn on their audio, and here we go. All right, guys, how are you?
Incredible.
Hi, Justin.
I'm
Wonderful. Good to see you.
so glad to have you on, and I do apologize to all the listeners for the audio and video quality, but we did the best we can. So Aaron and Geneva, I wanted to bring you on because, man, you are making quite the splash in the rumblings in the alternative natural health community with this AmpCoil thing that you guys are working with now.
There's a lot of people out there that, are coming from a similar situation that we did. And so, we just, as we were in development of this and using it and ourselves, we thought, well, gosh, if it can help us, maybe it can help the next person. And as we started to share it, we started to see that. And over 70% of the people that have AmpCoils, it's all been through word of mouth or referral from somebody else that has one. So, that's really how things spread, is when people are using something and they're getting results and they're excited about it, and then they share it with people that they care about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and yeah. Aaron, was I correct in describing it? Does it use sort of a PEMF combined with biofeedback, combined with sound resonance and Rife frequencies? Was I correct in describing it that way?
Yeah, well, and long story short, both Geneva and I have had the pleasure of being in the holistic health technology business for decades, and we've been exposed to a lot of different things out there, and a lot of amazing technologies and products that are amazing on their own. But when it comes to these so-called, we'll say, mystery diseases, that's where the challenge really lies for a lot of other things that we were exposed to previously. And so when I got as sick as I did, myself and our oldest daughter, who literally almost died from Lyme disease, we started looking at, well, if none of these things are really working on their own, how can we put them all together? Is that even possible? So we literally challenged some of the best minds we knew in the industry, since we've been involved in this so long, and said, here's what we want to do. Are we crazy, or can this be done? Well, we already knew we were part crazy, but we said, and here's to the crazy ones. Let's find a way to do this. And so we literally put some incredible people together with us and said, let's figure this out. And so, yes, we did incorporate a lot of those technologies and others all into one unit. And I don't know that we could have even done it until a few years ago, because technology wasn't advanced enough to put all these things together into one simple application that literally somebody could use from home.
Now, I know you guys both have a tremendous story with Lyme disease, and it's interesting because we've done a lot of shows on Lyme disease, and there's a lot of people that talk about it with regards to like using natural supplements and things like this that can really help in cleansing and detox. But when I've brought up your device to multiple doctors, and it's not really like they've never heard of it, and I feel like this happens a lot where people just don't know all of the technology that's out there. So I'm curious if you could share your own story, because you said your daughter almost died from Lyme, and I know both of you have a story with Lyme. So can you just share with us what that story was all about and how Lyme affected you?
Yeah, well, I'm going to actually let Geneva step in on this one, and I'll chime in.
Nice.
Being the mother and what you saw.
Yeah.
Well, our story is really, there's a lot of similarities that people have with other people that have gone through a chronic Lyme situation or any kind of chronic disease. And, we first, Aaron came down with the symptoms, and we went through the whole process of all the supplements. I mean, we were spending a couple $1,000s a month on supplements, and we went to multiple doctors. We tried lasers and light therapy and ozone therapy, and he would stand in line at Tijuana every day or every other day to get his ozone treatments. I mean, the list went on. I mean, we probably spent over $250,000 on trying to get him get well. And a lot of these things had some benefit. And we noticed some improvements, but it was very, very temporary. And we just knew, we could just feel that it wasn't enough to create that massive shift that was needed in his body. And so that's what we started doing, was saying, okay, well, what are the things that are working? So if we have noticed that EMF therapy, he got some response from, and biofeedback therapy, he got some response from. Using bioresonance with frequencies, he did. And we started saying, well, what if we combine all these things together? Then maybe it could create that amplified effect that really what was needed to create that massive shift. So we started doing that. Meanwhile, I think part of the stress of taking care of the family, the finances, my daughter, who then also got very, very sick. Eventually I ended up with severe migraines and left side paralysis. And so now our whole family was down. And this is, and,
Wow.
and we're not the only ones. I mean, this happens to people. I mean, we get calls every day. And I mean, I get calls from mothers that say, I have 7 children and all of them have Lyme. And it's like, wow, it just, it's still,
Yeah,
it's a big one, to take that on. And it's, whether it's Lyme or anything else, it's a big challenge. And so, but all the while, we knew that this was happening for a reason.
Right.
Just like any challenges that anybody has in life, they're all happening for a reason, and that something good can come from it. And so we thought, well, what if we can get ourselves well? Then what if we share that with other people? Could that help them get well? Could then they possibly benefit from our experiences? And so as we lay there in bed, just completely immobilized and drifting deeper and deeper into this, that was what really gave us hope. Like, you know, this will someday benefit others. And then at that point, we really reached the point of having zero financials available to us, and we were without a home, and support from family and friends was gone. Everything was gone. And then a doctor friend of ours, I had just come out of the hospital, and he put a modified Tesla coil on my head when I was paralyzed. And within 10 minutes, he muscle tested a few frequencies, and in 10 minutes, I started to gain almost complete feeling back in my left side.
Oh my goodness.
And we said, bingo.
Bingo.
We are so close to finding that right combination.
Yeah, it was really in that moment where we looked at each other and we said, okay, well, this is going to help us. Now we're going to be able to help others.
Yeah.
And that's when this really.
So that's what we did. And we spent you know, it took probably about 3 to 6 months of us using this prototype ourselves to get really to where we were high functioning. And at that point, then we said, well, let's start sharing this with other people. And so I remember the day that we said, okay, let's
try
invite
this.
others in. Aaron called me at the end of the day. He says, I have 3 people showing up tomorrow, so at our home. And so we started opening our doors in our home. And literally, I don't know what it looked like to the neighbors, but we had people driving in and out of our driveway. They'd stop for a half an hour, do a coil session, leave. And this was happening all day long. And that's really how it started. And then we just started manufacturing more and more, and that's continuing what we do today. It's just the more people respond to it, the more we.
And now we have a professional facility in our hometown, and literally thousands of people that own the technology that are sharing it with thousands, starting all over the world now. So, you know, it's kind of cool to think that in a short time we have people, I believe, in all 50 states that are ambassadors that can help others.
And it really started from this Lyme, chronic and autoimmune, but now it's really started to shift into transformation. People who are already doing pretty well, but really want to take it to the next level. Out of professional athletes, people just really on the wellness path, that they know that there is so much potential that we have in this human body. And so what would that be like when you really get your body in balance and clear out the interference? What would life be like? Because our health is the greatest governor for the quality of our life. You know, if we're not feeling well, it doesn't matter if you're sitting on the most exotic beach in the world, you have all the money in the world, you're with all the people that you love. If you're not feeling well, the quality of your life is down, so low. So that's really, you know, creating an empowerment tool for people to be able to do that for themselves, for their family, for people in their community.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because at the end of one of our last shows, we kind of do at the end like a wrap up of a show and kind of talk together as a community, and we're discussing, you know, is it natural or healthy for people to take or consume like unnatural substances? And we're talking about, one of our previous guests mentioned how coconut oil is not natural, so you shouldn't take it because you would never find sort of coconut oil in the woods, right? So we're discussing this idea of like taking essential oils. Essential oils aren't really natural. And so we were all discussing this, and it seems to me like in today's world, with the way that we're living such unnatural lives, with 5G coming and all this wireless radiation coming and all of these things, it seems to me like you were just saying, Geneva, like even if someone is not experiencing any autoimmune diseases or any symptoms like that with Lyme, it seems to me that tools like this should be a part of people's journey to get to that next level, whatever that level is for all of us, right? We need to start adopting some of these tools, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, this is really, we didn't know this when we literally signed on with the technology, that this is where it was going to come to, but this is at the forefront of what we're working on with our team, is to really be able to balance out the challenges from all the things that we're exposed to daily, and from our standpoint, we're constantly learning how to do it with power and precision, and something that somebody can simply do with a couple clicks of a button from home, without all these other things that become too overwhelming to even think about doing.
Because even if you're feeling well now, you're still exposed to a toxic world, whether you're under chemtrails or whether, like you said, the 5G. And the way that the device is calibrated, it's calibrated to the Earth's
natural magnetic pole.
Yeah, exactly. So you're literally pulsing between half Earth and about about little over Earth. It ranges between, depending on which frequency you're playing. But so you're literally calibrating yourself to the Earth's magnetic field. So when you're getting all these alternating magnetic fields from 5G or microwaves or cell phones or things like that, it helps bring you back to that place, which you may say, well, why is our magnetic field so important?
Right.
Well, I mean, every electron is creating a chemical reaction in our body. And so when your magnetic field goes off, your chemicals go off in your body, and then your hormones go off. Everything starts to shift. And people who are magnetically sensitive to Wi-Fi or a cell phone or something, and you start to feel yourself, wow, I just feel a little bit of a headache, or I feel depleted. That's your magnetic field shifting and creating this entire chemical reaction in your body. So with the AmpCoil, every time you coil, you're realigning yourself to that proper magnetic field to combat really what we're exposed to all the time. And, with the toxins that we're exposed to in the air, in our food, in our water, there's specific journeys in there that, and when I say journeys, what I mean are frequency sets that have been very intelligently designed, a precise sequence of frequencies that take you through a journey. And so there are ones for toxins and poisons. There's ones for heavy metals. There's ones for viruses and bacterias. There's parasites, mycoplasma, all kinds of different non-beneficial microbes. There's also ones for your organs and nutritions, because each one of those has a very specific frequency. So you can play that sound frequency through the Tesla coil, and then that frequency is amplified through the device. And so you get this amplification of this frequency, and your body starts to then resonate with that. It's like a remembering. So you send the frequency of the liver, and the liver goes, oh, you're talking to me? Oh yeah, that's my resonance. And so your body starts to remember what its natural, God-given, created design is. And so we're just reminding the body of how it's divinely created.
Well, and just real quick, it's something to note, because this comes up with a lot of our customers. They'll say initially, well, how long will I have to use this?
Yeah.
and I'll say, well, that's a great question. And if I can reframe it, it's more like get to. And I realize you're not there yet, because what ends up happening is once they start to feel so-called well, then they start to realize going back into the environment that caused the issue in the first place may not work very well. And they're wanting to continue to stay on their path. So the biggest issue we have as a company is people say, well, could I possibly get a used device? Well, there aren't many out there, because people don't sell them once they have them.
Right.
And which is ultimately a great complaint, because it's really about having something that can empower you from home, that you can use at any time for as long as you feel you need that.
Yeah, it's like, how often do I have to get a massage, or I have to go into a sauna, or I have to drink cold pressed juice? Well, as much as
they're such horrible things,
possible.
Right? They're such horrible things.
And then there's others that say, I feel like I'm getting addicted to it. It's like, well, you can get addicted to feeling better and better and better.
We like healthy addictions.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. And I think wasn't it Tesla himself who said, if you want to understand the mysteries of the universe, think in terms of light, frequency, and magnetism, I think.
Energy.
And energy, yeah. And so I'm curious, I have kind of like a geeky question about this, because I'm interested in how the technology works. When it comes to pulsed electromagnetic fields and the Rife technology, now, if I'm understanding Rife correctly, he sort of put together these frequencies. So he would learn what frequency an organ vibrated at, or maybe a bacteria vibrated at, and then he would use a counter frequency, like we've all seen. The example that's given so often is the lady breaking the wine glass with her voice.
Sure.
And then so the Rife technology would send a counter frequency to sort of bust apart a bacteria or fungus or something like that. How is this being used in your device with the PEMF? Like, how do those things tie together?
That's a great question. So that counter frequency is actually a resonant frequency. It's the same frequency of that. So that's how Rife was able to determine the frequencies, is he looks at the molecular weight of that bacteria and is able to just put it through a simple physics formula. And I mean, you can look online and look up molecular weight, apply the formula, and you come up with the frequency.
Interesting.
So that's really what the counter frequency is that matching resonant frequency. And so when you apply that with the high enough amplitude, or he used plasma tubes. There's a lot of electrical devices out there that use the frequencies. And so, with us, we use the PEMF field as the delivery system. So if you can imagine, the PEMF field is like a magic carpet that the frequency is able to ride on into the body. So why do we use a PEMF field? Well, because the PEMF field can penetrate and permeate anywhere and everywhere in the body. Like, you can put the coil on you and put a sensor 2 feet behind you, and you can see the sensor go off. So when you're working with electrical, there's more barriers when you're working with electrical. It doesn't get to go to the blood, up to the brain, into the joints, the hollow organs, other areas of the body, that when you're dealing with things, these pathogens find their way.
They're smart
into the brain.
They're smart enough, to literally hide in the brain.
Especially if you've taken anything, any herbs, any supplements, any antibiotics, anything that you've put into your bloodstream that creates an adverse environment for them, they're going to try and find their way out, is away from the bloodstream. So a lot of times you take these things and you temporarily feel better. And yes, you've had some improvements because you've seen a reduction in the bloodstream, but then you stop taking these things, and then all of a sudden you get a repopulation, or those things that have burrowed into the joints or in other areas now start to surface out and come back into the bloodstream. So you can do as much as you want in the bloodstream and orally, but you have to be able to get things that go intracellularly to the brain and to every single place in the body. And the only thing that does that is a magnetic field. And so that's why we use that pulsed electromagnetic field to carry those resonant frequencies. And so with Rife, really, I mean, we do have specific frequencies that Rife used a lot. And we do have those in our journey sets. And however, we have a lot of other frequencies as well that we use. But we do have one feature in the device, because a lot of people are familiar with Rife and they like to use his frequency set. So we have a place in the app where you can literally just type in the frequency and the time, and instead of having to put it through these electrical devices, you can create your own journey, put in those frequencies, and then apply it through this PEMF modified Tesla coil. So you get, instead of having to play 33 minutes on a frequency, you literally play 33 seconds. I mean, it's that fast, that powerful.
Wow.
Well, one other thing I think that's really worth mentioning here too is the delivery system through the biofeedback. And, so many of these things, even though they've been great technologies, you're literally shooting in the dark. So
a frequency is only good if you know which frequency to use. So if you have a virus, you have to know which frequency that is.
Right.
And
so that's where the biofeedback component comes in. So we can take a really good look at what the body wants in real time and address it from there. So you're keeping the body at peace while you're, going in and doing the deep work in the areas that it wants support.
Yeah.
So that's
And that
really
valve-
interesting. Oh, sorry. That's really interesting part of your component, because like a lot of times if you get a Rife machine from somewhere else, you might get that set up from a doctor or something like that. But as we know that, a lot of our symptoms change over time, and a lot of things that we have happen to us or happen to us change over time. And so how are you doing this biofeedback? How are you getting that information in? It looks like it's coming through some auditory pathways and things like that.
That's correct. It's through voice analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, so the voice holds information from the body, and so when you speak, it's doing a recording of your voice, and then it sends that information through. You have a voice spectrum picture that you can see, and it actually shows you where you're getting these spikes and drops in your voice. And that is then translated into looking at which frequencies through your voice are off. And then those frequencies are then applied to every single frequency set in the app. So it says, oh, if frequency 250 hertz, you're showing a spike on, well, let's find the journey that has 250 hertz in it. So you're not just randomly playing frequencies, you're playing ones that your body is saying, okay, I'm sharp or flat in this area.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, it really helped. I think that's why people get results so fast, because, with Rife devices and everything, I mean, we still have a Rife device from the early days, and it's a wonderful tool, but technology has advanced. And so it doesn't take 6 months to get the same results that you can get in literally, less than 6 weeks. And
and people don't realize how much they're already using voice analysis on a daily basis, because people will say to us, well, where did this come from? It's been used for quite some time. So if you look at just even if you have a smartphone and you do voice texting, that's a form of voice analysis. So the
lie detector tests all use voice, and not all of them now, but they're transitioning into voice analysis because it can pick up so much more levels and highly tuned stress levels in the voice than just traditional galvanic skin response.
Now, this to me seems like a really interesting part of the whole thing. And it's funny because we were talking a while back about how, I was saying some of the most difficult people for me to do shows with are people that are either medical doctors that see the light, and they're on the border between natural and medical. Or people like you guys who have a product, an amazing thing that is helping people, because what's so challenging in today's world, as you know, is that we can sort of dance around a lot of things and talk really generally about, what these things can do for people, but we can't say specifically, we can't talk about diagnosis or anything like that. And so that's the really challenging thing about doing a show like this, is like we can't really actually talk. If I were there with you in person in private, we could share stories. But with all of that said, so when you're doing the biofeedback and you're speaking into the device, I'm wondering if it is going to share with you something that is going wrong in your body. Like, let's say you started having some autoimmune disease symptoms and you were sort of unsure if that were the case or not, and then you used the AmpCoil and you spoke into it, and would it tell you sort of what's going on in that way with a label, or are you guys sort of unable to even do that?
We really try and stay away from the labels, because one frequency can represent a mineral, it can represent a vertebra, it can represent a nerve, it can represent a brainwave, it can represent many different things. So it really doesn't matter what the label is. The important thing is that you bring that frequency back into balance. And so it's not at all intended to be diagnostic. The point in the way that we're familiar with diagnosis, which is labels. But these labels are just a summary of the condition, the symptoms. They're not actually underlying causes. So if we're looking more diagnostically, we're trying to get down to the cause of the underlying frequency. It doesn't matter what it is.
At the same time, if somebody's remotely aware of what's really going on with them, there are things that come up in the voice analysis that they know speak directly to them, where they're like, oh yeah, that's me. So they know it's getting an accurate lock on what's going on with them.
Yeah, it could be, it could not. It doesn't really matter, because as soon as you put that coil on you, your body is already shifted. So that's the thing, is people are so used to trying to identify, and then they get it in their mind, and then it actually makes it even more of a stuck pattern. But things shift so quickly. It's like, let's bring it up, let's shift it, and continue to let the body move to a higher vibration.
Yeah, this is
so,
such.
But there are things. I know we can't make claims as far as what it can do and all of that. But the one thing that I can say is that we don't treat disease. There's no button in there that says this for Lyme or this for Parkinson's or anything like that. The basic premise of it is to, like, when we started inviting people into our home, we just started doing what we did to ourselves. So we started going through each organ system. We started increasing playing the oxygen frequency, balancing the hydrogen, so you have a more balanced pH, playing the minerals, which are literally the keys on the piano. The same frequencies of the keys on the piano are the minerals in our body. So you're playing those frequencies and balancing your entire bioterrain, which is your inner ecology, so that harmful pathogens, things like that, now all of a sudden go, oh, this isn't a really friendly environment to live in.
Right.
You start clearing the metals, all of a sudden you're pulling food sources from them. Now all of a sudden they don't even have an option. And so you just do an entire full body balance. It doesn't matter what the disease is. Your body starts to, is designed to tune back into place.
I think one thing that might be important that I know a lot of companies don't get the chance to have is to have foundations and other third parties really evaluate the results.
Yeah, actually.
So I'm going to have Geneva just bring that up. And this is from the Wellness for Humanity Foundation.
Yeah, because we do have to be very careful with claims. There is nothing that we can claim.
Right.
So what we did is we started doing sample groups. Wellness for Humanity Foundation did. And they started doing sample groups and doing symptom trackers. So, and then at the end of 90 days of using the AmpCoil, they then started reporting statistics based on that user feedback.
And these are families that had 3 or more people with Lyme disease that were gifted a device for 3 to 4 months, and in return, their role was to track their results.
Yeah, so it's an amazing foundation. They are, because they literally have a waiting list of probably
thousands.
So many people right now waiting for AmpCoils, and so the people that have received donations, they give these AmpCoils out to people for 3 months. If you have a minimum of 3 people in your family with Lyme disease, and then at the end of the 3 months, they report these stats, and then they pass that AmpCoil on to another family, and then the foundation helps them to be able to get some kind of financing or whatever that they need to be able to then have a AmpCoil in their home long term.
Wow.
So do you want me to just share with you a couple of these stats, and that, because I think that this will speak to not just diseases, these are more kind of things that people commonly.
Yeah, it'll just take about 30 seconds.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do that after. We're going to take a short little break, and I think that would be really cool to get into, because that's really, really important. Third-party verification and really looking at this kind of stuff. And if you guys are watching on the Dr. John Bergman YouTube channel, thank you and welcome to you guys. I hope you guys are having a great day. And when we come back from the break, I think we'll take a few questions as well from the listener audience, and that way we can get some good feedback from you guys. I wanted to let you guys know about this really cool product that we have in our store, and that is the Bellicon Rebounder. If you follow us on Instagram, you probably see me jumping every day on this thing, and it's pretty awesome. I love this device, and like Aaron and Geneva are saying, it's really, really cool in today's world with the technology that we have today, to be able to bring some of these devices into your life, into your home, and really kind of turn your home into like a healing environment. And years ago, we got the Bellicon Rebounder. I had actually torn my ACL doing jiu-jitsu, and I couldn't rebound for a long time. And then when I finally could, I got one of those cheap Walmart ones, and my knee, I just couldn't rebound at all. And so after I got the Bellicon, it was just like, it's like jumping on air. And you might be wondering, like, is this kind of like the Jane Fonda 1970s kind of style exercise routine? And that's what I thought too, because I really like, going to the gym and lifting weights and stuff like that. But when you start understanding the benefits of rebounding, how it's so incredible for your skeletal muscular system, how it cleanses the lymphatic system, how it's incredible for bone density, circulation, and it's one of the only exercises in the world that helps to cleanse your lymphatic system. And you have 3 times as much lymphatic system in your body as you do blood. And the lymphatic system is where we sort of store a lot of the toxins, our fat cells as well. But that's why when you go to the doctor, they always check your lymph nodes to see if you're sick, underneath your neck and in your groin, armpit, stuff like that. And so the Bellicon is just tremendous. So I highly recommend. What's really cool too is that they have these legs that fold. You can probably see on this little video or picture here. But one of the best things about it, you can see if you guys are watching the YouTube video, is it uses these flexi ropes instead of those loud, noisy springs, which means that you can use it when your kids are asleep or kids are in bed, and it's quiet, it's silent. Here's a picture of my wife jumping on ours when we first got it. We're so excited. And here's a picture of ours as well with our little dog. And they're just incredible devices to help take your health to new levels. And I jump on mine, like I said, every day for about 30 minutes. I do it out in the sun. I do it while grounded, and then I listen to good podcasts and stuff like that to really learn a lot more. So a tremendous device to bring into your home. And I also wanted to tell you about Stockton Aloe 1. This is a tremendous aloe vera product. Aloe vera is one of the most unique superfoods in the world. It's been consumed by ancient civilizations and for mankind for thousands upon thousands of years. And it's got a lot of really unique constituents and elements in it. Like, it's got over 75 different active compounds, along with vitamins, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, and this weird sort of substance called ormus. We did a whole show on ormus, and it's got a lot of that in there as well. It's a magical substance. It has these really long chain sugars in them as well, like oligosaccharides, polysaccharides, and these are all things that are tremendously anti-cancer and help the body build an immune system. And what's really cool too is it's antibacterial, it's antifungal, it's antiviral, and it has this really unique substance called ace-mannan, which is like an immune stimulator. So what it does is it induces macrophages in your body, in your blood, to produce a substance called interferon and interleukins and tumor necrosis factor A. And so all of that said, it helps to boost your immune system. And take a look at this photo. Actually, that photo is really small. But take a look at this stuff. I mean, this stuff is like magic, and it's incredible for coating and soothing your digestive system. And that's why people take it. Rodney Stockton, who's the guy who started Stockton Aloe 1, he lived till he was like 96 years old, 94, something like that. And he attributed his long life and his abundant health to taking this aloe vera every single day. And so what they do is they ship it to you fresh frozen. So they hand harvest it. It's not pasteurized. It doesn't have any weird ingredients in it. And they ship it to you fresh frozen. So all you have to do is defrost it, the night before, and then you can drink like a therapeutic dosage, which is like 2 to 4 ounces a day, and you can even go up from there. And this stuff is just it'll transform your gut health, and it's just an incredible substance. So we're big fans of what they're doing over at Stockton Aloe 1. Take a look next time you go to the health food store. Take a look at all the other sort of carrier ingredients that come in just about every other brand of aloe vera. And what's cool about Stockton Aloe 1, it's just the aloe vera itself. So really tremendous product, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. Let me see really quickly if there's any people doing some, whoops, let me turn that down. Let me see if there's any questions in our chat room, because I know that we do. So let's bring Aaron and Geneva back, and we'll get into some of those third-party studies. And then while they're talking about that, I will gather some questions from our chat room. And so let me bring them back up here. And Aaron, yeah, I wanted to get into, some of what you were talking about before, which is those third-party studies, because that's really what it's all about, getting some of that data in that doesn't have a financial interest in this and stuff like that. So I'm curious what you've been able to find with regards to the AmpCoil and some of the effects it's having on people.
Yeah, so Geneva's got those studies right in front of her, so I'm going to let her go ahead and go through that.
Yeah, I just
Nice.
I pulled them up on my phone here. You can actually find them on the Wellness for Humanity Foundation website. If you just Google Wellness for Humanity Foundation,
Cool. I'll do that.
and you can see them on the home page there. And they've got a lot of great information there about what they're doing to help families with Lyme and other things there. So, okay, so it's the first stat, the most significant response that people had across the board was 93% of the people reported reduced pain. That was the first and foremost. Oh, there we go. Thank you for that visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great.
So, and again, so these are subjective responses. So Wellness for Humanity collected these responses based on their experience. And let's see, let me pull that up again. I have that in front of me.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. So we're not doing blood work saying their spirochete markers went down from this to this, or their thyroid markers went from here to here. We're saying, how did your quality of life change? You know, because it's really about, how do I feel? How do I feel? And so these are just real people, not just stats, but real people reporting these changes of, 89%. In mental clarity and increasing mental clarity. This is after 90 days of having the AmpCoil in their home. 88% performance stamina. I don't think I need to go through all of them unless we don't have people visually being able to see this. If we don't, I'll just mention a few more. 87% improved relationships.
Now that's interesting, right?
How chronic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because chronic illness.
Most couples or families don't make it through long-term Lyme and chronic autoimmune issues. They just don't. They go separate ways for a variety of reasons, and usually it's just the insanity of the so-called disease itself.
And you're not yourself.
Yeah.
When you're in that state, you are definitely not your best self. So it's so as you start to feel better, your relationships start to shift very, very quickly. And memory, digestion, reduction in anxiety, 72% reduction in depression. I mean, that's huge. And this is with no drugs, no side effects, nothing except getting your body clearer and healthier and functioning better. And these last two are very interesting to me because they're significant. 57% of people were able to return to work. So these were people that are financially devastated from being sick. They haven't been able to work.
A lot of times in years.
And over half of them were able to return to work. So instead of just charity and, now getting on disability and being part of the system, this foundation is empowering people and giving them a tool to be able to then start helping themselves again. 57%. And then in that time, 36% had a reduction in debt. So
wow, that's a weird sort of correlation, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about how much money is spent on trying to keep yourself well, and I mean, I shared with you how much we spent, and just a couple $1,000s a month just on supplements alone, let alone doctor's appointments and all that. I think on average, people spend about $50,000 a year. And then now when they're able to shift over, and if they finance it to technology, it's like $130, $140 a month for themselves and for the entire family. I mean, that's not even one practitioner's appointment. And now you have so much. So they had so they were able to basically repurpose their funds and start getting out of debt.
And to me, the whole key in all this, from my own journey with all those visits to doctors, practitioners, really all over the world, is the fact that you get to do this from home.
Yeah.
And it takes about 5 minutes to learn how to use.
Yeah. Because when you need you need that appointment and you need relief, you can't wait until Friday's appointment. You need it now. You need to be able to crawl in bed and put that coil on you and feel a difference, feel a shift instantly. And
that's really cool, really empowering as well, to allow for that, for people to be able to do that, and so I'm curious, what did you mean before when you said a modified Tesla coil? Like, explain what that is, because I've heard of Tesla coils and the and the shape of these things and stuff like that, but what actually is a modified Tesla coil, and why does it work so well using the AmpCoil?
Where do we start? It's a big question.
Neither of us are the real engineering type of people either. So.
But what I can say definitely is, if you look at where Tesla was, 100 plus years ago, for those who don't know about him, literally the godfather of free energy, and you can tell how much somebody knows when you ask them about, we have a modified Tesla coil. They look at you like, well, that's the car guy. And so anyway, we're like, well, it comes from the same sort of technology, and it's really bringing that sort of philosophy of how a circular coil can work in today's world to really help somebody in their health. So we modified it from what Tesla originally designed, because it's
been modified too from Tesla to the kind of the next generation of that was the Doug coil. And so
I remember that.
Coils have gone through an evolution, right? And so it's each it's all part of an evolution. And the other thing too about the free energy is the way that it charges the cells in your body and the voltage in your body. Now all of a sudden it literally is an experience of free energy. Like, my energy just shifted because the battery of my cell was discharged. So there's a lot of people.
Sorry. Speaking of that, that's interesting, because you talked about the battery of the cells. So this is obviously going to be affecting mitochondria, right? I would imagine.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, because we know we have, there's anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 different mitochondria within a cell, and we have 100 trillion cells. And, there's that famous doctor out of Texas. What is his name? Dr. Jerry Tennant, and he says that healing is voltage, right? So it's this electrical potential and electrical energy that allows us to run these invisible processes that happen all day long.
Absolutely.
And so when people are using this AmpCoil, it's affecting mitochondria, and I would imagine as a result of that, creating more ATP in the body and things.
Yeah, there's a lot of studies on PEMF a lot of studies that have been done on that. So again, we can't make claims, but we're using PEMF therapy, and there's been lots and lots of studies on mitochondria. It's so interesting when you look at the voltage of a cancer cell compared to a healthy cell. And there's such a significant difference between the two levels. And same with the frequencies. When you look at the normal frequencies of even food versus canned food, it's completely different frequency. I think Tanio? Tanio, if you look up Tanio studies, he started doing studies with essential oils and was measuring the megahertz essential oils. And then he found that so fascinating that went, wow, rose has the highest megahertz, and he actually could see how each one had a different megahertz to it. And then he started doing that with food and seeing that, I think it was, don't mark my word, but I think it was about a 20 megahertz difference between live food and canned food. And so if you're wanting to increase the vibration and the voltage and the energy in your body, that's why we feel better when we have raw live food versus canned food. When we have a virus or a bacteria, you should actually look up a study. It's really, really interesting, because it actually shows you where a cold and flu, fungus, candida, each one of those things actually are vibrating at a certain megahertz. And so when that's in our system, it actually lowers our vibration, lowers the voltage. And so I think that's part of why people feel so much better too when they coil, is because you're not only getting charged up, but then you're clearing the interference, like those pathogens that keep the body at a lower vibration. Because you can keep pumping up the body, but if you've always got this slow leak, then you don't really get anywhere. You're just maintaining.
Right, right.
One other thing, because I know we've got to wrap this up here shortly, that I think is really vital for people to understand, if they are going to use the AmpCoil or even become an owner themselves or have this in their professional practice, is it's really, we're not a device company. It's really a movement. We're really here to empower people to really take their power back. And the support that we give is massive. And getting people to understand how to make lifestyle changes that are simple, that they can do in conjunction with using the technology, and that you literally have a trusted source and a family that is right there that's going to support you even after you think you're better. And so that's a huge part of our commitment within the community, is to, okay, you bought the technology from us and you think you're better, well, now what? So we've literally started a AmpCoil community circle to expand the possibilities for people to really go out and not only share their journey with others that really need it, but to really start to go out and make a difference in the world. Because we have found out that majority of the people that come to us, their life is far better after they think they're better with us, because of the journey they've gone through, and because of how we've all come together about how we can really make a difference in the world with all the people that are lost.
Yeah.
Well, like Aaron said, a movement, it's so key, because we're so used to being isolated. When we're not well, we go into isolation, and isolation kills. It really can. And so it's not just about having a device in your home, but then it's about the whole network of people being on the journey together. And that's what's the most moving part. I mean, we have annual gatherings, we have calls all the time, we have online interaction.
People getting together in local community.
Yeah. So it's just like, wow, these people understand me kind of feeling.
Yeah, totally.
A safe healing environment.
I know that you just had an AmpCoil summit, right, up in Lake Tahoe just a couple of days ago, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
A few weeks back.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so cool. And that's what I really like about stuff like this too, is for me, I am, really healthy guy and I have no issues going on, but I assume that there would be a lot of people listening like that, and then also a lot of people that are dealing with sort of a health challenge. So for those of us that just want to sort of take things further, you could use something like this every day, right? And just improve your health. And if you did that, how long would a person use it every day, and how would that look for them, do you think?
Well, it's not even necessarily an everyday thing. I think most people that report back to us, they feel called back to it. And so they're better, and it's almost like a meditation practice where it's like, okay, I know I'm going to feel better if I do this. It's going to bring me back to who I really want to be in the day. And so there's supportive journeys in there that you use in a totally different way to keep you in, let's call it, the highest vibration possible.
That's great.
So and we just did an event in LA, and it was very interesting how many people stopped by that actually had been exposed to the AmpCoil for quite some time, and they said, I just wanted to stop in so I could just recharge and kind of go back into my day the way I really want to. So it's just kind of interesting, like, they're filling up their tank.
And so you don't want to do it every day, because it is creating such a massive shift that it does take a little while for your body to assimilate that change.
Oh, interesting.
And so, maybe up to 3 times a week.
Okay. What's cool about it too is it's one of those things. Sorry, but it's like one of those things that you can use while you're meditating. I assume you can use it while you're while you're driving, or maybe you're doing some yoga or stretching on the ground, or while you're doing something else. So it's really kind of like a passive way to improve your health, right?
Totally. Yeah, that's cool. When we developed it, we did not develop it with that thought in mind, but as a byproduct, it's happened a lot. So literally, without getting off topic, we have people that have massage studios, and they'll put this in the middle of the room while everybody else is doing yoga, and
Yeah.
the findings are profound. You
Yeah.
know, it's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
a lot of people do it as they go to bed at night because sometimes they're busy and they can't find any other time for self-care.
Yeah.
But they know that when they go to bed at night, if they just push play and put the coil
Yeah.
on them,
Yeah.
they can at least rest in peace knowing that they've given themselves that self-care for the day, and then they fall asleep.
Yeah. So how long, if someone did that, if they fell asleep, do different programs last different amounts of times, like with regular Rife machines, or how does it work?
This is I mean, most of them are anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And there's a very subtle gong that completes it, so you can kind of reminds you that it's over.
Okay.
Sometimes if you're doing a cleanse journey, it's going to last up to an hour because there's a lot of built-in intelligence into the app that will prep your organs, give you a nutrition boost, open your drainage organs, run a sweep of metals and toxins to start that drainage before you go into other things. So those journeys are a little bit longer. And again, you would not want to do that more than 3 times a week.
I see.
It's quite profound.
That's,
but yeah, as little as 17 minutes up to an hour.
It really just depends on where the person is in their journey.
yeah, that's really, really cool. I like that because, you know, some of the Rife machines, they have frequencies, or doctors can put together sort of a bundle of frequencies that will last 8 hours, you know, for you to sleep. So, in wrapping up, I'm curious too, just for my own personal interest, there's a lot of debate. You know, we've done a lot of different shows with different practitioners who use PEMF therapy, and there's people debating, and this is what gets me so it's so funny how this happens, but people debate high frequency or low frequency. Which one do I use, you know? And I just, you know, personally, I say use them all, get all of them. And, you know, it's not like low is going to always be good in every circumstance. So I'm curious with the AmpCoil, like what's the Gauss, and, you know, is it considered high or low frequency, or how does all that work?
Yeah.
Well, we had the same questions too when we were putting this all together. And so we said, you know what, both is better. Low is good, high is good, both is better. And so the device range is between 5 hertz and 10,000 hertz. And we keep it below going up into the radio frequency range, which can be harmful to the body. And so the journeys that are created, the frequency sets, use the range from 5 to 10,000, depending on what you're working with. You know, but even so, everything is a harmonic of the other. So people who only use the low frequencies, well, that's a harmonic of the upper frequencies, and vice versa. So
right.
You think it's separate, but it's really not.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing that I think is key to mention too is we knew that we had to have different power settings in there depending on how sensitive that person may be.
Okay.
And so we did that as well. So we really could cater to almost anybody, depending on, you know, just how their physiology shows up.
Yeah, because it goes down to anywhere from 10 milligauss all the way over 2,000 milligauss. So, you know, you wouldn't use the above the 2,000 for long periods of times, but, you know, short 7 minutes on a broken bone to stimulate healing. One of the things that PEMF has been FDA registered for, things like that, for sure. But most of the time, we're looking at a range of exactly matching it to the Earth's magnetic field.
I like that.
The Gauss of that.
I like that. Good
so
stuff.
That's the way we're created.
Right. We've got a couple questions here that I was just curious about that I feel like we should ask from the chat room. And it says, let's see, is it available outside of the U.S.?
Yes.
Is it?
So we recently came out with an international travel device.
Oh, cool.
And so now people, and it's lighter, it's smaller, and it has the ability to convert to whatever power you're using wherever you are on the planet.
Oh, okay.
And so we're super excited about that. I wish I could mention names. We have a very well-known pro athlete that travels all over the world that chose to get 4 of these for all the different places he travels to. And we have our partner literally going to Sweden today to do a big presentation with the technology there.
Oh, cool.
And Australia. And so, I mean, it's you can take it anywhere.
That's great. Okay, cool. Another question comes in here. I kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm not sure if you guys answered completely. You can use it. Can you use it in a car while you're actually driving a car?
At this time, I wouldn't recommend that because for a couple different reasons. Well, if you're driving, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're a passenger, yes.
Okay.
Because it is so deeply relaxing, your parasympathetic response, everything starts to shift that I would say it's mind altering. You know, most people fall asleep during a session or go into a very, very deep meditative state. Okay. And that's really the state that you want to be in.
Yeah, it's resetting the nervous system.
To be most receptive.
Yeah. Okay.
So you don't want to be watching TV and interacting and doing all these things. You want to be in the most like a sponge, just absorbing all this energy and frequency and letting it do its thing.
Yeah, so, that makes sense.
But yeah.
A couple other
But on
questions.
road trips, we put in a charger and we have the little port and you can plug it in and run a session during the car for passengers.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, a couple other questions here. Let's see. Do they accept Medicaid? I guess that would be traditional insurance. Probably not, right?
Yeah.
No. I mean, as a practitioner, it would need to be FDA registered, and then in the whole insurance process, and it isn't.
However, if they can find a practitioner or an ambassador in their area, they'll be pretty surprised at how reasonable the sessions are. Mm-hmm. So they're pretty inexpensive, and most people will notice a pretty dramatic shift within 1 to 2 sessions to know that, whoa, this really works for me. I want to continue putting my resources this direction.
And again, financing is $130 a month. So, and it's a 0% interest free for that first year. So it's very reasonable.
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable. Finally, it says here, does the AmpCoil have any relation to Bill Nelson, the inventor of the EPFX machine? I don't know what that is. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah, and he's an incredible, I'll say, genius in creating biofeedback technology on a quantum level, and he's somebody that we had worked with many years ago, and one of, like many others that we mentioned before, that really was ahead of his time and had been able to create technologies that are still ahead of their time.
Wow.
And what we found is, for the types of issues we were dealing with and others, is that we needed something really powerful and precise. And that's where we knew that we needed to, help bring something like the AmpCoil to the world.
Yeah, so the technology he created, we actually used, I did sessions on Aaron about 3 times a week with that. Mm-hmm. And it's what I think kept him alive, literally, for several years.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
We knew it wasn't going to get him to the finish line, but until we had anything else, it's what kept him alive, I would say, out of anything that we tried.
Yeah. Wow.
That's great. So that's what showed us the power of and the potential of technology, and what spawned further development of knowing what's possible.
So in sort of wrapping up here, you mentioned earlier, you guys, about how technology is changing and there's lots of advancements going on. With regards to the AmpCoil, and what types of things are you looking to improve on, or are there any new products on the line, on the lineup, or what sort of direction are you going with it, do you think?
Most definitely. So we know that as we continue to evolve on so many levels, that being able to make it even easier to use, being able to make it to where people can potentially even do some of these things through their smartphone with potentially an even smaller amplifier. These are all directions we're constantly looking at continuing to improve. And I think the only thing that's even holding us back with some of those things is the technology itself catching up with the thoughts that our team are coming up with. And so, by all means, it's going to constantly evolve. And since so much of this is software based, we can literally create new programs and put it out to our collective community in a matter of minutes without having to upgrade, say, the hardware. So we're super excited about that potentiality moving forward.
Yeah, and creating a whole experience. So when you put the coil on you right now, you have that really internal experience. But a lot of people say, gosh, now I'm so fascinated about wellness and I want to learn more. So, we're starting to put together education pieces. So if you're working, frequencies with the lungs, you can learn about the lungs and how the factor, how the brain and correlate this with your body and learn as you go too. So if you're sitting there for 30 minutes doing a session, you can use that as a time to learn more about your body, and guided meditations, and taking an hour cleanse, and we are already getting pretty close at being able to half that time with the same amount of results. So yeah, it's exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, knowing our team, this is what we eat, breathe, and sleep. So, and people say, well, when are you going to be done? I don't think there is a done.
Yeah.
It's constant, and this is what we get excited about getting up every day and being a part of, is just this continuing evolution to allow people to just vibrate at the highest possible vibration.
Yeah, that's our little dog right there.
Yeah,
I was going to say, what a cutie.
Animals love the coil. As soon as it turns on,
they come running to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How cute. So yeah, you could probably put one on like in a dog's house or something, right?
Well, you just as soon as you turn it on, they come right over.
They're smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Totally. They have less going on in their world to they're like, oh, that feels good. I want to go over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, and one final question, guys. It's so crazy because as you continue to speak, I just have more and more questions. I'll try to make this the last one because I know you guys have a business to run and people to get back to. With regards to frequencies and things like that, you said that you're able to update frequencies, on the device, probably through technology. So, how are you guys coming up with new frequencies, and how do you develop that? Because there's so many that are happening inside the body. There's not just all the organs and the tissues and the glands and all the interstitial fluid, the bones, and then the blood and all that. But then you have all the pathogens and viruses and fungus. And are you constantly coming up with new frequencies? And how are you getting those?
Well, it is part of our secret sauce, but I'll let you answer as much as you want to share.
Actually, to be honest, it's actually eliminating the number of frequencies and focusing on the ones that really create a profound shift in the body. People think more frequencies is better. It's actually less, because about 5% of the frequencies create the most shift in the body. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's just like, why when there's no metals and no fungus in the body, why all of a sudden there's a whole cascade effect to parasites and everything else starts to crumble.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So it's the same thing with the frequencies. If you can dial in the ones that create the most card falling effect, like the house of cards that you pull it out and Jenga and everything falls.
Right.
That's the refinement. It's not more, it's refining it. And that's why we are starting to get things done in half the amount of time.
Wow.
Because we can say, wow, we played this, and look at the effect, the domino effect that it created.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think in closing, from our standpoint, our newest technology, the travel unit, it's called the Trek, or kind of loosely based on Star Trek. So when people don't really understand what we do, I say, oh, it's from Star Trek. And so people somehow relate to that if they don't relate to anything else.
Yeah.
And that's really the direction we're hoping that we get to catch up with soon, where literally like Bones just, has that scanner that goes over your body, and that we get to be a part of that almost becoming reality.
Right. Wow, what a cool thing. Well, you guys are doing some awesome things, and I've heard about your devices, and I've heard about you guys for since you guys have been going, and so thanks for filling up this slot. I'm really excited because I wanted to give you a first crack at the cancellation for today. So Thank you guys,
Happy
for all
to
that
be
you
here.
do.
Yeah, well, I know you have a faithful following, and I understand why. So please just continue doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I'll be in touch with your team, and I'll let them know when the link is live and all that good stuff. But when I hang up the phone here, it'll be sort of like a hard hang up. So thank you guys for all that you're doing, and I'm super into following the journey that you guys have and what new products you come up with. And so thank you for all that you're doing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Aaron, Geneva, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Justin. Wishing you well.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All righty, there you go. Aaron and Geneva. That was pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Let me see if any of you guys are back in the chat room here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me see here. Sorry about the video. I don't know what was going on. There's some issue with the video. We tried Skype and we tried everything else. So we tried eliminating wireless technology. We tried to get them hardwired, which they were, but unfortunately, I don't know what was going on with their video, but it might be the vMix, which is the program we use to sort of stream. So be that as it may, that's sort of what I like to do, is to offer you guys different ideas and approaches, because a lot of times people will, I shouldn't say a lot, sometimes people write in, they get upset that we talk to people about products and stuff like that. But if you really stop and think about it, there's really no one that we would ever talk to that doesn't have any kind of product. Because even if their product is their website, going to their website and reading their articles, that's still a part of their work that they're putting out to the world, and they may be financially benefiting in some way. So I just don't think it's possible to not email or to not speak with people that don't have products. It's just not possible. And, frankly, that makes up a small percentage of the podcast that we do anyway. So I just feel like it's my duty to bring to you guys options, and options come in the form of different ways of looking at things, different ways of looking at studies, or different information, or different herbs, or different supplements, or different books, or different programs, or sometimes different products like this, or like a Vitamix blender, or like the Bellicon rebounder I talked about. And so there's all kinds of different ways to help the body. And so I really wanted to feature them. We don't have any financial interest in promoting them or having them on our show. We just wanted to feature someone that we think is doing good work. And a lot of my sort of friends and colleagues in this natural health and natural healing space have this AmpCoil, and they speak very, very highly about it. So if we ever did have a financial interest, we would let you know, and we would obviously vet it out and use it and try it out and see if we like it. And if we did, then we offer it in our store. But until then, I just like to feature cool people that have tremendous stories like this, and so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Bob, I'm just seeing your email or your question now. Are Aaron and Geneva selling, not designing this machine? As saying it's like a Tesla coil and not knowing what a Tesla coil is disconcerting. No, they are the founders of AmpCoil, and so I think they maybe I threw them off with that question. I still don't truly understand what a Tesla coil is, but I think that it's really fascinating. I watched a whole documentary on Tesla, and I think it was put out by Truth Stream Media on Facebook. It's really fascinating. Really, really fascinating. Bob Dillon says, I'm about to buy a car I really need, but maybe this would be a better use. Yeah, you know what, Bob, you might do is, I love that name, Bob Dillon, is you might want to consider, this is what I do, sort of split the difference. So if you want a $10,000 car and I'm not even sure how much the AmpCoils go for, actually. I should have asked them, but I assume because they're talking about financing and things that they're going to be, I would imagine, a few $1,000. I would just guess. But so maybe buy a $5,000 car and split the difference and get both. If Bill Nelson is a genius, why did he abscond to Hungary? Abscond? Is that a word? ABSOND to Hungary, and why can't none of his claims, like working for NASA, be proved? Yeah, I don't know much about Bill Wilson. Actually, I've never really heard of him. I heard of the Doug coil, other stuff like that, but I don't know much about Bill Nelson at all. There's no way that device warrants its current cost. I don't know what the cost is. What's the cost? Of course, if I had 10,000 to blow, I would probably be some rich dullard with my mind in toxic places. Yeah, abscond, okay, is the word that he used. PMF therapy is an important subject, though. Highly recommended to learn more. Yeah, we talk a lot about the sort of invisible processes of the body, and I think it's really important to work with them. And what's his name was saying, Dr. Jerry Tennant, healing is voltage, and he's done so much research showing the voltage of cells and what happens. I was just $10,000 or $200 a month. Oh, interesting. Well, if it's Bob, I'm not sure if it's $10,000 or $200 a month. I'm not sure where you got that. Is that on their website? I don't even know if their price is on their website. But if the device is really worth it, then I'm all for, personally, I'm all for purchasing devices like these. I'm just a big fan of it. I would rather have a less good car. I'd rather have a car that's more clunky. It just all depends where your values lie. And there's nothing wrong with liking a nice car or having enough money to buy both, really. So to me, if I'm going to make a choice, I'm always going to choose to have a Vitamix blender. I'm going to choose to have a sauna. I'm going to buy high quality food. I'm going to do all these things and take care of my health first. And so that way, for me, just trinkets for the sake of trinkets in terms of like, I don't know, cars, things like that don't really impress me. I'm not really concerned about cars, until there's, flying cars and stuff like that I could get in, that are good for the environment and use, free energy, then that would be a different thing. But, for me, I'd rather invest in my health. I'd rather invest in my personal growth, personal development, and things that can help me achieve that kind of stuff. So, yeah, maybe we'll pick up one of these things too. We'll buy one. I'll start a little savings fund for it. $10,000. Is that what it is? $10,000? I have a different PEMF device, works good, costs about $500. Nice to move into the biofeedback range if it's real. Yeah, you know what? I mean, it's one of those things where, is it real? Like, does it actually read your voice? And I mean, they're getting that information from somewhere. I'd really like to sort of hone in on the actual technology of how it's reading the frequencies of your voice and then sort of mapping that to deficiencies and things like that, because that to me is really interesting. I guess you could theoretically go get some blood testing done and find out, like, for example, if you have parasites, or find out, for example, if you have Lyme disease, or find out if you have, some of these sort of issues in autoimmune disease, and then you could sort of work with the system. I don't know if you could sort of work with the system if you know you already have these issues. I don't know how that works. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that show. Oh, I wanted to share with you guys this interesting thing that I learned about recently, and it was this idea of frequency and vibration. And they were exposing fungal spores to electromagnetic field radiation therapy, EMF, not therapy, but just the frequency radiation of EMF. And they found that the spores grew, I think it was up to 800 times more. And then when they took those same spores and placed them inside a Faraday cage, the spores didn't replicate barely at all. And so it's interesting when you talk about fungus in the human body with relationship to this 5G coming and wireless technology and Wi-Fi routers. The average person has anywhere from 5 to 7 wireless bidirectional devices that are emitting wireless frequencies, and it's just really damaging to our health. And so if the average person has anywhere from 5 to 7 devices, and then you have the cell towers, then you have the dirty electricity in our walls, and then you have all of these sort of magnetic fields coming out of the walls and from the different devices that we have as well, you start to really understand, like, wow, maybe this is impacting fungal overgrowth in the body. Because if the spores were replicating 800 times more as a result of being exposed to Wi-Fi, then wow, what a crazy thing that is, right? So can it be true? Like these are some of the questions that we should be asking ourselves. as we start manipulating our environment, because that's the one thing that human beings can do that animals can't do. Animals are inextricably linked to their environment, right? They don't have the choice of manipulating the environment. They can't build a house. They can't do the things that human beings can do and create the kind of technology that humans can create, or travel long distances like human beings can. Like, sure, it can be argued birds can do this, but in whales and stuff like that. But generally, land mammals can't do that. Can't go, take a flight to Australia and choose to live there, right? So this is one of the problems with human beings, is that we alter and manipulate our environment. And the issue is that what they're doing is we have a group of people that are doing this, a group of unconscious people that are doing this to our environment, that are affecting everyone within that environment without their consent. So now the question is, what do we do about that? Do we move? Or, we need to really start asking ourselves questions as well. Like, with the coming 5G, it's going to be really a lot more important that you hydrate and you stay hydrated, because this wireless technology actually dehydrates us at the mitochondrial level. A lot of people don't know this, but the mitochondria creates, one of the things it does in our body is creates water. And so when you dehydrate the actual mitochondria, you're going to dehydrate the battery and the voltage of the body. And when you do that, ATP production gets cut. There's less energy for healing. There's less energy to create new blood cells. There's less energy to create white blood cells. There's less energy to heal. And so without water, there's no voltage. With no voltage, the body can't heal. And when the body is constantly in that low voltage state, diseases arise. And like I was saying, fungal issues arise. So is it possible that we're going to start seeing a growth of fungal overgrowths with new 5G technology? So this is kind of what I was saying during the show. I don't have any personal experience yet with the AmpCoil. I hope to try it out one day. But what I'm saying is that with technology advancing so rapidly in our environment, and our environment being changed and manipulated on multiple levels, not just the physical level with like pollutants and chemicals and stuff like that, but also in the electromagnetic level as well. With our environment radically and rapidly changing, it's going to be more and more important for us to understand how that environment is affecting our health. And, a lot of people will say, there's a guy who was on our show, Konstantin Monastyrsky, a while back. He was saying that human beings drink too much water. He was saying this idea of drinking 8 ounces or eight cups of water, or half your ounce in body weight in ounces of water is too much. But the thing that we have to look at is like these general platitudes about health no longer are going to apply the more we change our environment. So if the water in our body is being dehydrated because of electromagnetic field radiation, then what this guy Konstantin was saying on our show a couple of years ago is accurate, right? But with the changing environment, it's all of a sudden going to not be accurate. We're going to need to drink more water. So I think it's really going to behoove us, all of us, to take some of these new technologies and to incorporate them into our life, because the more society and culture changes into this fast-paced, rapid environment, the more we're going to have to start implementing new strategies and new protocols to help the body heal. And whether that includes, doing Qigong or having a meditation practice or anything like that, it's really important for us to do that. And so I just think it's really, really important for us to alter and manipulate the way we live because of the environment we live in. I wanted to share with you specifically something interesting that we've been having a lot of success with when it comes to magnetism. If you guys follow our store, if you've been in our store, you know that we have different sections called light, water, and magnetism and EMF, because I think those are so incredibly important to our health. And one of the ways that you can really optimize your health is through the use of magnetism and bringing more magnetic flux into our bodies and increasing the circuit of our bodies through the use of magnetism. And that's why we're big fans of the Magnetico sleep pad. We have these on our bed. We're soon going to be upgrading to the Super Sleep system. So right now we have the 10 Gauss system, and we're going to be upgrading to the 20 Gauss here pretty soon. And magnetism is it has such an incredible impact on the human body. There's an oral surgeon back in the 60s named Robert O. Becker, and he studied salamander, and he was able to regrow limbs of the salamander with this technology of electricity, with positive, negative electric and magnetic stimulation, through the use of magnetism and electricity. So it's pretty incredible what magnetism can do for you. The Earth's magnetic field itself has weakened over 80% in the last 4,000 years. So it's a lot of people are saying now that studying like the Babylonian empires, stuff like that, the magnetic field was around 3 to 5 Gauss back then, and now it's at like 0.5 Gauss. And some people say that when dinosaurs were on the Earth, it was around 300 Gauss, and that's why everything was so much bigger. So this is happening with air pressure, with oxygen, and it's really, really, our environment's changing tremendously and bringing more of these etheric forces into our healing space, into our bedroom, which is, incredible thing to do because you're basically going to sleep on a bed anyway. So why not heal? And so these things are incredible because there's like 2,000 magnets on these things, and the pad itself weighs like 75 pounds. It's pretty heavy thing. And so it uses like the plus minus switching polarities with the magnets. So it's set up in a beautiful way by Dr. Dean Bondley, and we've had him on our show. And you essentially just sleep in this magnetic field, and it helps to push off the 5G and wireless technologies from your body. And so sleeping and bathing in sort of this magnetic field is really, really incredible. And we sleep amazing on ours. So if you guys want to grab one of these things, the Magnetico mattress sleep pad, you can use the code EHR10 and get a 10% discount on any of the pads that you get. And I highly recommend this because, focusing in on your house and the areas where you spend the most time is the most critical. So sleep is an area of your house that you really want to optimize. And finally, I wanted to tell you, speaking of changing our environment, man, if you look at the different amounts of light that are impacting our environment, and understanding why light is such a critical, important piece to our health, you'll start realizing really quickly that it's really all about light, water, and magnetism. And light affects our mitochondria. And what people don't realize is that the genetic expression, our nuclear genome, actually takes orders from the mitochondria. And so the mitochondria specifically are impacted most notably by light, by temperature, by frequency, and vibration. And so when you're able to impact the mitochondria through blocking blue light, which is what you see me doing here, these glasses are from a company called Blue Blocks, and they have a ton of different models, as you can see here. They're really cool glasses. Like, they have all kinds of ones. They have the daylight ones, which I use at home anytime I'm indoors. They're the yellow sort of frame, and that allows a little bit of blue light to come in. And it reduces the flicker rate on your screens, which impacts mitochondrial health. And then they have the 550s, which blocks up to 550 nanometers of light, and I wear those before bed. So blue light's incredibly damaging to the body. It damages our pineal gland. It ruins our hormones. It affects our melatonin levels, which a lot of people think is just about sleep, but melatonin really is not just a sleep hormone. It impacts over 4,000 different processes and enzymatic processes in the body, and most notably, melatonin is the number one anti-cancer hormone in the body. And so that's why it's super, super important to hold on to your melatonin. And there's a whole strategy about how to do that. But one of them is to block the blue light from robbing it from your body. So this is why I never do a show without blue light or blue blocking glasses. So I just wanted to sort of share those with you. If you guys want a 10% discount, code EHR is available. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, the link for these products will be down in the description below, and you can check them out, and I highly recommend them. I would like to check out the AmpCoil though. I know a lot of people are using that, and I'm all about just bringing these tools into your house and sort of turning your home into an area where you can heal. And so, like for example, I have the Rapid Release Technology Pro, and if I ever injured my back doing a workout in my backyard, I would immediately, use the Rapid Release that we have in our store, or I would immediately use a PEMF device that we have in our store. And so it's really great to have these things on hand and have them at your home so that you can, just use them every single day. Big fans of this kind of stuff here. Okay, so we got here some questions. You guys are really talking up a storm. I like this. Bob says, the dirty EMF is weakening our own energy torus fields, which enables the growth of bad bacteria. Yeah, there's a lot of studies between dirty EMF or dirty electricity in our walls and having an effect on our blood sugar. That's why we have there's two products in our store that we have with relationship to that. The green wave filters that you can plug into your wall that essentially eliminates almost 100% of the dirty electricity in your walls. And also Brian Hoyer has a whole house version of that same thing. And so, yeah, it's impacting blood sugar levels, insulin resistance, dirty electricity. What people talk about is that with any kind of electric field traveling down a wire, you're also going to have a corresponding magnetic field as well. And so one of the first things they say, like in German hospitals, is if you're sick, first thing to do is to move your bed 3 feet from any wall, because you could be sort of sleeping in a dirty electricity field for 8 hours. And so, it's crazy when you start thinking about like how toxic sleep is, right? You start thinking about that, and then you start thinking about wireless technology, and then the fire retardants that are sprayed in our beds, off-gassing and breathing that all night. That's why I like the Magnetico. That's why I like these dirty electricity filters that we have. It's really important to make your sleep environment something really, really, something that really affects you in a good way. You're an Animal says, I had a hellish sleep last night. Cell antenna and smart meter again, crushing my brain. Many supplements help, but I need more things. I wonder how the AmpCoil would work in contrast. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It sounds to me like some of the frequencies are only like 30 minutes. So I know with the Rife machine that we have, you can put that on for 8 hours. But I would honestly, work on a lot of levels. I would get your home tested. I'm not sure where you're located. You're an Animal. I love the name. You're an Animal. I'm not sure where you're located, but there's a building biologist that we had on our show. You probably were on that show, Brian Hoyer. And he routinely goes out to different places around the world, and specifically and mostly in North America here. And we'll come out to your home and test. He'll spend 3-4 hours in your home. And he's coming to Los Angeles here pretty soon. So we're going to have him do some stuff for Extreme Health Academy, as well as do maybe another podcast with him as well in person. So there's a lot of different things. Molecular hydrogen, which we have in our store, helps with mitigating EMF because of the small particle size. It's the smallest antioxidant that we know about. This molecular hydrogen. So that's available in our store. You can breathe that. You can put little tablets remember those little, not Tums, what are they, like Alka-Seltzer? Remember those things? Well, you can put these little tablets in your water and it creates molecular hydrogen water. And we have those in our store. And so that's something that you can do, as well as the Blue Shield technology, as well as you go to lessemf.com. We have a link for that in our store as well. You can buy smart meter blocking devices that you can put on your wall. There's all kinds of things that you can do, which is really cool, But also, it's like, wow, look at all these things. I mean, it's one of those things where there's a naturopathic doctor a while back that was making a joke about, eating grains and wheat. And he was saying, if you just envision like the farmers picking the wheat and then monocropping all the crops on the soil and wrecking the earth and then taking that and processing that and soaking it and then grinding that up into a mill just so that human beings can eat it. And he was kind of laughing at, like, if we have to do all these things just to make it digestible, maybe we shouldn't be doing that, right? Maybe we shouldn't be consuming that, because like if you have to do all these things to simply consume something, it's just, maybe it's God's way of saying, maybe we shouldn't be eating that. But on the flip side, or with relationship to our current system and our culture, if we have to do all of these things to be able to sleep in a protected environment, like, it should tell us something. It should tell us that we're doing something very wrong with our culture and what we're doing, the electrification of our society and the wireless. Everything's going to be connected now through 5G, and we're going to have what they call the Internet of Everything. And it's really disheartening, and it really makes us have to do a lot of different things now to just have a baseline level of health that we had, like, in 1985, when we're running around, or in 75, 65, when we're able to go out in nature and just explore and to be healthy and happy. We have to do all kinds of things to mitigate this kind of stuff that they're throwing at us. And so it becomes increasingly more and more challenging to live in this culture. The other answer is to maybe go out in the wilderness and just go out and live in the woods, something like that. But if you want to live in a city or in a rural area, then you need to do a lot of things just to be able to push off this stuff that's coming at us. Chemtrails was supposedly begun as a way to cool the earth, yet we're only seeing negative effects within nature and humans. So I guess that's what the true purpose was all along. Yeah, it's also decreasing the solar radiation from the sun, the frequencies that we get, by up to 30%, I heard recently, by all these different, chemicals and heavy metals that they're, doing in chemtrails. It's pretty crazy. Urine, you can get your, this is Bob talking. This is Bob talking to urine. Urine, you can get your smart meter changed for analog. Also, turn off your TV and wireless devices, etc. at the socket. Yeah, that's good tips. Bob, I'd recommend you listen to the show that we did with Brian Hoyer, and he talks a lot about that kind of stuff. But he's, this is his full-time job, and he does this full-time in a full-time way, which is fascinating. There's an interesting video. If you go over to the Truth Stream Media YouTube channel, they have a sort of disheartening video, sort of a little mini documentary that they did. I think it's about 30 minutes, trying to change their smart meter and trying to prevent the company from installing the smart meter and going back to analog. And when you start watching that, you start really realizing, wow, there's a real agenda with these smart meters, whether that's control of your appliances, or whether that's simply tracking what appliances you are using for insurance purposes or for building some sort of social profile about you purpose. Maybe that trickles down into advertising. If they know you're using your fridge often, or they know that you're using, a lot of water, maybe they'll start trying to sell you, commercials for water filters. I don't know, but it's pretty disheartening. Understanding how all of this stuff is connected, and so it's really challenging too. I think Pennsylvania now is the first state where you can't switch back to analog. So I may be wrong on that, but it's something I heard. I feel like I read or saw an article about that recently. So this stuff is really challenging. Yeah, I know Less EMF has some devices that you can put on the inside of your wall and on the outside on the actual smart meter itself. We've done a few shows about smart meters and what they do to the human body. It's pretty disheartening. Yeah, so you can turn those off or call your, I think you can switch back to analog, but you do have to pay, like $30 a month extra or $10 extra a month, which is just crazy, right? Kigo says you shouldn't be sleeping on a bed anyway. Well, there'd be people that would debate that. It depends on how the bed is affecting you, right? And what's on the bed, what kind of bed you have. Bob says the changing planetary EMF comes from us entering the grand solar minimum, which removes layers of protection. Yeah, it's interesting. The changing planetary EMF. Is this product similar to Blue Shield tech and how it works? Thank you. Riza, yeah, I think it's completely different. The Blue Shield works more on a scalar technology. It's my understanding. I don't fully understand the schematics and the coding that goes into the Blue Shield, but from what I understand, it helps to transmutate the actual field, the wireless technology field, into more harmonious and more parallel frequencies that our body can recognize. And I think that's what scalar technology does. We have one of the rest shields from Fresh and Alive in our bedroom, and that uses scalar technology too. That's available in our store. That's sold by Ken Rolla. And so I'm just a big fan of using everything. Just get everything. If it really is important to you to be healthy, just get as much stuff as you can get. When it comes to this stuff, obviously do your research, but make sure that you're spending a good amount of money on a regular basis on your own health and on your own healing. Blue Shield also uses Tesla technology too. Yeah, Riza, we did a show with Brandon Amalani a couple days ago about the Blue Shield, and he gets into all of it, and I'd have to go back and re-listen to it. So yeah, I'd have to find out what exactly the frequencies and the coding technology that goes into the Blue Shield is. Wow, you're an animal. You say that you could hear cell towers and smart meters from a mile away. How do you hear those things? What's interesting is we have in our neighborhood, we're looking at moving now because if you go in our neighborhood, we're sort of sandwiched in between a school and a church. And this is what's so nauseating. So apparently Verizon, is it Verizon? I'm not sure what company it was, but they're basically giving the church an ungodly amount of money to be able to rent the space in order for this huge big 5G cell tower. And if you're we walk our dogs and that thing just looms over the entire neighborhood. And so we're going to be moving here pretty soon. So we're putting out the vibe. We're starting to look at different places because, I'm not going to expose our twin boys. They're like 3 months old to this kind of stuff. And so that's what Dr. Jack Kruse talks a lot about, man. It's really about in your environment. Your cells and your body are just responding to the environment. And, like Dr. Bergman says inside our Extreme Health Academy, that the body's always self-healing and self-regulating. Dr. Massey says this, the same thing. Our bodies are always looking to find homeostasis and find healing and to find that balance. But the problem is that we keep bombarding it with these 5G technologies, with bad food, with bad thoughts, and all these things. They're throwing the balance of our body off. And that's why Dr. Jerry Tennant's work, Healing is Voltage, is so important because it affects the voltage of our body. And when you have these 5G towers, not only that, but something that you might want to know about is that this technology, it'll jump onto the dirty electricity in your walls. And so this is something that I just was reading about recently about how some of these towers, the frequencies coming off of them are actually jumping onto the magnetic and electric fields that are, it's called dirty electricity. It's jumping onto those in our walls. And so it's amplifying those as well. And so, this stuff is a big deal, and it's not easy. It's easier to take turmeric than it is to move from one state to another. This is the problem. It's easier to take a supplement or to drink a green juice than it is to change your life. And so, unfortunately, it's getting to the point now where we're going to have to change our life. We're going to have to change our environment. So our body is constantly, responding to the environment. And it's been said that, we can't heal in the same environment that we got sick in. Is that true? I don't know. I think we should question everything. I don't know if that's true. I think the human body is incredibly powerful and it can do extraordinary and tremendous things. And so saying something like that, I wouldn't want to put a limit on what the body can do. But people have said that you can't heal in the same environment that you got sick in. So if that's true, I wouldn't even say that that's true, because that's sort of putting yourself behind the 8 ball. And that's like saying that your body's not good enough, right? I think the body can withstand unbelievable amounts of toxins and chemicals and things. So, but at the same time, even if you believe that's true, I think it would behoove us, all of us, to move to an environment that's better and safer. So let's see here. You guys are chatting up a lot. This is cool. How do you hear cell towers and smart meters? That's crazy. I think the AmpCoil works by disrupting dirty EMF. That's possible, yeah. Oh, you're in San Diego. Okay. You're an animal. I love that. You're an animal. Bob says to urine, if you're having hellish sleeps, then you need to work out by process of elimination what's responsible. And then You're an Animal says, I can hear Wi-Fi, but not very much. It will still give me anxiety and a headache if I'm too close for too long. So I can shield a little and it helps, but the cell towers and smart meters are the worst. Yeah, it's I think that it's a lot of this stuff is like we're so disconnected from our environment and from ourselves that we will hold on to unhealthy practices, unhealthy addictions, and unhealthy lifestyles and unhealthy environments without really understanding the impacts of those things. So like a wildebeest in the wild, when it starts realizing and the seasons start changing, it's directly connected to the cycles of life. And it will go and cross rivers full of crocodile in order to get the right kind of grass, for example, that will deplete its deuterium in its body, and will give them the right nutrients. And it will travel thousands of miles to get that grass. So it is inextricably linked to its own environment. The problem is that we set up camp in these things called homes, and we get tied to the homes through something called a mortgage. And when we're tied to that, then we need a way to pay that mortgage, and then we have to get jobs, and then we become tied to this thing that we call a home, and we're unable to actually just travel throughout the world and find somewhere easily that's more healthy for us. And so that becomes a real issue with humans, is because we get tied into this and locked into this lifestyle of being sedentary, of not being able to go to an environment that's more healthy for us. And so, I think one of the biggest things that we can all do is continue to working to extract ourselves from the things in our life that cause us to be tied to the system and tied to the matrix that we're living in. So what does that mean? It means like if you own a house and you can't move because you owe mortgage on it, then figuring out a situation where you either rent that house or you sell it and live in an apartment and you pay month to month, or having something where you're upwardly mobile in the sense that you can move somewhere if you need to. A lot of people have children and they go to schools and they love those schools and all this stuff. And we become, instead of being nomadic, we become tied to where we are. And the problem is that we're being poisoned. It's like essentially we're being forced to be in a small room with someone who's smoking. And we're breathing that smoke and it's destroying our lungs more so than the smoker because of the lack of filters. And we say, I like this room though, I like this person who's smoking, and I like the walls, I like the color of it, and I like, where I am, and I like all these conveniences about the room, but we fail to realize the elephant in the room is the guy smoking, destroying our lungs, potentially giving us cancer, right? So that's the problem, is that we become so enamored with where we are that we don't want to move. And so I'm speaking to myself here because I love where I live in Southern California here. We're 2 blocks from the ocean. And we have hills that we can go and mountains to climb, and then we can go surfing that same day. We can go snowboarding one, first part of the day and surfing the next part of the day. I mean, you can't get that anywhere. But the problem is our environment is becoming incredibly more and more toxic. And so at some point, we're going to have to make a decision here what we're going to do. And I think we all need to come to that realization too, that it's not about taking turmeric. It's about changing our environment. Let's see what else you guys are saying. What's the name of your store, Maria says? The name of our store is just extremehealthradio.com. That's our main website. And if you go to the top, there's a link. If you're watching, it looks like you are on YouTube, there's a link to this, some of the different products in our store in the description of this video. Chemtrails give me a 24-hour flu-like feeling with lung ache and mild body ache, but I've since been using various detoxing materials, and the chemtrails haven't had the effect on me. Keep moving until you escape, Bob says. It's your health, brother. Take it back. Nice, Bob. That's great. You guys are having a good conversation in here. I feel like I'm missing out. You say, I've taken microplant powder, and that alone has had a tremendous effect for chemtrails in my experience. I use a smartphone app called LTE Discovery. See, these are all cool things I would never know about. I use one called D-Minder, which is interesting. It shows you how much vitamin D your body is making in a certain environment at a certain time of year at a certain altitude, and it geo-coordinates with all of that to show you how much vitamin D you're making based on all those factors. But this app is called LTE Discovery. If I'm below readings of negative 110 decibels, I can sleep decently enough. But above 95, it's a torture. Wow. LTE Discovery app for your phone. This is what's cool about this stuff. If you all have noticed some of the micro cell antennas on top of utility poles, they are mainly 4G but use a full wave antenna, which is not good for transmission, but better for reception of device data. However, because of the long antenna for the 2 gigahertz range, you have to jack up the power output a lot to compensate. Shorter antennas like quarter waves are better for transmission with less power. Yeah, man. A Faraday cage can block EMF, yet how to apply that to your situation would be key to your recovery. However, I'd move to someplace cleaner. Hey, Bob, where are you located? I'm curious where you are. And do you experience any chemtrails or 5G stuff where you're located, I wonder? Wild Thing says, I'm not affiliated. I'm not sure what that means. Oh, because you said a comment that I didn't even see until just now. Slim Sperling's Light Life tools are amazing for EMF harmonization and environmental harmonization. Slim's wife, Katharina Sperling Kaffel, now manages the continued manufacture of his amazing tools. Okay, cool. I wonder if... Let me take a look at this. Slim Sperling's Light Life tools. I never heard of that before. This is pretty cool. See, this is cool because we get direct feedback from you guys. So, like, when you guys send me information on emails, we get so many emails every day that I just can't get back to everybody. I really can't. But I do so in the academy, and that's part of the reason why it's a paid community. But when I get to talk to you guys this way, is this the website here? I'm bringing it up here. It says lightlifetechnology.com. Upcoming workshop in Colorado, November 3rd, 2018. So there's all kinds of different pendants and things like that. Yeah, interesting stuff, huh? So they have harmonizers, rings, all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, a lot of this stuff is you take it by faith, right? You do some research and you check out the people and you kind of go by faith and see what happens. But part of what this show is all about is to give us the tools to heal. So maybe it's something like this, or maybe it's the AmpCoil, or maybe it's something else that we've talked about in our store, or maybe it's simply just sitting down and meditating and reconnecting with who you really are. That's going to be one of the most beneficial things for you. And so You're an Animal says, thanks, Guy. Trying various techniques. You know what? You're an Animal. You said you're in San Diego. You should contact Brian Hoyer. Let me give you a link for that. He's coming out to Los Angeles to do a shielding assessment. And I don't know if, what kind of funds you have or what he charges for any of this stuff, but I'll put a link in the chat room and you can click on that if you guys are interested, because he can come out to your area and actually do a whole thing on your house, which I think we're going to have him do for us as well. a Faraday cage, Bob, it sounds like what Brian was saying the other day was you could actually create a double Faraday cage in your room, so you can actually do a painted, use certain type of paint, and then you can also do some bedding or some a quilt, kind of a tent cover over your bed, and that will create like a double Faraday cage. But the trick with that too is that you have to go underneath your bed as well. And then the other thing to consider with this is that if you're doing a Faraday cage, you're essentially blocking out all of the sort of Schumann resonance and the good frequencies of the earth. So it kind of comes at a cost as well. So yeah, this is all really, really fascinating stuff. Chemtrails are everywhere here. So it looks like, Bob, you're in the UK. Brighton, it sounds like. Chemtrails are everywhere. I've studied all different forms of healing for the past few years after getting seriously ill. Managed to heal myself and now work towards helping others just like you, Justin. That's awesome. Are you finding, Bob, that there's a lot of people in your area that are sick, that are getting sick and don't know why? I would imagine that there's, this kind of thing is going to be happening a lot in culture, more and more as we continue to artificially manipulate our environment with non-native EMF and Wi-Fi signals, specifically with 5G. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to come down with sort of strange and bizarre illnesses like diabetes, like autoimmune conditions, like cancers, and we're not going to know why. And doctors are going to be scratching their heads trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And they think, I don't know why this is happening. But, you guys, Bob, you're an animal, and all the different other people that are inside the chat room now, you guys know why, because you guys are on the cutting edge. You're following this kind of stuff, and you're researching. And, doctors are stuck, and doctors aren't able to stay on top of the research. And that's part of the issue with conventional doctors. So anyway, if you guys haven't subscribed to our channel, if you're listening to this as a podcast weeks from now, and you listen to us on iTunes, if you could actually go over to iTunes and leave us a review, that would be incredibly beneficial and helpful for us. We're trying to increase our listenership as always, and one of the ways to do that is for people to leave us a review and to rate us and to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. So we're putting out shows now 3 days a week on iTunes and then 3 days a week here on YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube or Facebook, make sure to subscribe to us that way, to the Extreme Health Radio YouTube channel. That way you get updates as to all the different shows that we're doing 3 times a week live now. So make sure to subscribe and don't forget to comment as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts after we shut the show down here in a couple minutes about all this stuff. But Bob says most people have some kind of illness. All of them are clueless to why. I'm an aquarium, so I bring the light back. Nice. That's great. That's great. The cool thing, isn't this cool, Bob? This is the cool thing, is that even though we have such issues and such problems with our current environment, we have the mitigation strategies. That's what's so cool. We have ways to block Wi-Fi. We have ways to block EMF. We have ways to improve the indoor air conditioning or indoor air quality of our homes. We have ways to purify the stuff. We have ways to purify our water. We have ways to block non-native EMF blue light, like I'm wearing these right now, blocking blue light on the computer screen. There's programs like Iris that are in our store that block 100% of the blue light. And then there's tools that will help you improve your health. It's one thing to sort of block everything that's happening, right? But then there's tools to help you improve, like getting a Bellicon rebounder, getting a juicer, getting a blender, and buying organic food and supporting your local organic farms and doing meditation and getting outside. There's things that we can do to improve the quality of our life force that I think is tremendously powerful. And so it's cool because, yes, we live in a really bad time. It's like we live in the worst of times and we live in the best of times. And not only that, like, do we have the mitigation strategies available to us, but what's cool is that we also have the technology to be able to share some of these things so that people can pass them on. And by the way, you're an animal. Can you share with me, because it went up in the chat, can you share with me the name of that app that you have on your phone? And I'll read that off again, because there are a lot of people that listen to the show who are electromagnetically sensitive. And, and I think that could help them to measure their environment. So You're an Animalist says, the DHA supplement on your website, Justin, I'm anxious to buy it as soon as possible. Yeah, I think, it's interesting because I don't know if you know, but DHA is one of the ways for the body to carry an electric charge. And like we talked about on today's show, this whole healing is voltage thing, EMF and dirty electricity and all that kind of stuff is what's damaging our body's ability to have and to carry an electric charge of voltage in our body, right? And so it's interesting that you're interested in that because I know that you're electromagnetically sensitive, and the DHA actually helps you to carry that charge across the mitochondrial membrane so that you can create ATP from your mitochondria more effectively, and so that you can decrease the distance of that ATP transport chain, the mitochondrial transport chain in your body, to pass electrons over that more effectively. So that's one of the reasons why DHA is so effective. And so it would make sense that you're interested in it because subconsciously that's an area of your life where you need help in. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how we're subconsciously interested in and wanting to research the very things that are going to heal us, right? So it's cool. It's cool. Okay, so that app, for those that are listening on the podcast weeks and months from now, or on the video version years from now, is called LTE Discovery, and it's available on the Google Play Store. So I have an iPhone that doesn't have a phone on it. I don't have a cell phone, but I have an iPhone for filming videos and stuff. I wonder if it's available for that. I have to check into that. But thanks for sharing that with everyone. That way people can get access to it. LTE Discovery. Bob says it's the human dichotomy, infinitely powerful yet totally fallible. We need to raise our consciousness individually and collectively. That's true. Bob, I'm curious how you did that for yourself. If you could share that with everyone, that'd be nice, because people need to know how to do this to raise our consciousness. I can tell you how I did it. I did it through the use of mineralization specifically, and that is bringing minerals into my life. And that opened up the ability for my brain to start working and to fire new synapses and create new synapses and new, neurons, neuronal function of my brain. And that allowed me to have an open mind. And as a result of that, I brought in information into my life that helped change my life. And so, by focusing sometimes on the physical, you can affect the mental, spiritual as well. And it's sort of a feedback loop. It's like the meridian systems of the body, where, your tooth will reflex to a certain organ, but then that same organ will reflex to that same tooth. It's the same way with this kind of stuff. It's giving our body the tools to take our health and life to the next level. So sometimes you work on the physical and it affects your emotional, spiritual. Sometimes you work on the emotional, spiritual side and it affects the physical. Everything is all connected. We're just physical beings or spiritual beings having a physical experience. We're just using this sort of, we're like gardeners tending to this meat suit. And this physical, corporeal body that we have is made up of much more viruses and bacteria and parasites than it is us. The amount of DNA in our body pales in comparison to the amount of other organisms that we have living inside of us. So we're actually a tender of a garden, and we've been given this DNA, this physical nuclear genome, this DNA, as a gift. And so it's really important for us to pass on a better version of that gift to the next generation of our kids, right? You're an Animal says it's called neuroplasticity, and that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, neuroplasticity, and it's our birthright to take care of this gift. There's an interesting sort of story in the Bible where it's Jesus talking to the different people he was talking to about the talents, and he gave each person a different amount of talents, and these were like forms of money, I guess. And one of them went off and increased, doubled his increase. One of them tripled it, and then another person just buried it because they're afraid of losing it. And then Jesus got all mad at that person. Whether or not the story is true or not doesn't really matter. But the point is, the person that didn't do anything with what he was given, Jesus was upset with him about that. And so that's what I think applies even to our DNA. A lot of people think, oh, we have these things in our life, like our gifts and our unique abilities to help people, and we need to do this. But it also applies to our DNA. This is a gift that we've been given. And so it's really important to pass on the best, most viable and strongest version of our actual physical DNA to the next generation of kids. So if you're thinking about having kids, man, it's really, 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 really important to prepare for that for years in advance. You're an Animal says, I rarely get sick. I've only come down with something 2 times in the past 10 years. How I manage this yet and some EMF sensitive is a pickle. I must figure it out. Bob says, Justin, hard pass to Facebook. I'm not sure what you meant by that. Maybe you're off Facebook. Yeah, the DHA supplement that we promote and I use it and we give it to our kids, and Kate uses it all during her pregnancy, is from Symbiotica. It's available in our store as well. Really big fan of what they're doing over there. Let's see. You guys are really talking up a lot of cool stuff. Bob says, when I was ill, I sat quietly and asked myself, why me? The answer I received was, why not me? I studied myself and the world around me. My consciousness awakened and I began to heal. That's awesome. Yeah. These things choose us, don't they? I like to build remote-controlled crafts like multi-troters with autopilots. The telemetry radio modems, most of them have a transmission protocol nearly identical to the smart meters. Wow. When I do a test flight, I have to out the radio modem on a 20-foot extension cord behind the metal shed. The radio can reach 300 miles with less than a watt of power. It's 900 megahertz. Wow. Unreal. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up. So, again, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you're listening. I appreciate that. We're going to be back on, what's today? Today's Wednesday? Okay, so on Friday, we're going to be talking with Allison about her journey through brain cancer and using essential oils. And so this is going to be a powerful show. If you know anybody that has brain cancer or anything, or whose body has that, make sure to share that show with them. It's going to be a powerful show. And so this is what's so cool. Being able to heal on our own without medical intervention, right? We can all do this. We can all do this. We just have to do what Bob says here. When he was ill, he sat quietly and asked himself, why me? And the answer came back, why not me? And so, this is powerful stuff, tapping into our subconscious mind. And the reason why we're all here, it's a deep, deep spiritual path, all of this stuff. The health side is just really an invitation to go deeper. Really what it's all about. So that's cool. You guys are going back and forth. Yeah. Cheers, Bob. Thank you for being on, and thanks for sharing that stuff with us. I really appreciate it. And people that listen to the show, the thousands of people around the world that hear this are going to hear, some of the advice and things that you helped with. So, that's great. That's really, really great. Really, 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 really happy you guys are here. So, all right, guys, we love you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to our Extreme Health Radio YouTube channel, and join us again on Friday for a Friday show. That's going to be really cool. And I think that's about it. We love you very, very much. We'll see you again on Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.